morning guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel for the first time. My name is Elizabeth. I make a lot of home renovation remodeling videos, and today I'm going to tell you guys about my basement bathroom I've been working on. Before we start though, I am trying the middle part. I'm trying to stay on trend, but my generation grew up calling the middle part a butt part, so I don't think I can get past it, but I told myself I would try it out for one video and see how it goes. So here we are. I think I missed my side part, but now that that's all the way, let's talk about the basement bathroom. So eventually I want to turn our basement area into like a guest bedroom suite, and so I knew that this bathroom down there would be like just for guests to use. We've lived in our house for like 6 months now, and we still have not even like, other than doing all the painting and work in this bathroom, I had never gone in there really before, so we don't use this bathroom at all, but I wanted this to be something nice for guests to use and for them to have like their own little space. Before I started, this bathroom was quite cringy. I will say that since it's in the basement and we never use it and it's only for guests when they stay here, and we don't really have a lot of people who come over and stay with us, this is not the area that we wanted to focus a lot of our budget on. And so a lot of this is like DIY, let's just try it out, low budget bathroom. And so just keep that in mind as we go through, because ideally I wanted to completely replace the floor, the toilet, the little sink vanity thing, because I did not like the cream on there, and the drop tile ceiling. But before I started anything, this bathroom was kind of rough. We had peel and stick vinyl tile that have been on this floor forever. The pieces that held up the tiles on the ceiling were all rusty and really honestly probably needed to be replaced, but again, not in the budget. This cream color of paint that they had was literally everywhere in our whole entire house. All of the ceilings, walls, trim, and doors were painted this ugly like creamish color, so it's been my goal to get rid of it in the whole house. I started by taking absolutely everything out of the bathroom. I took the door off the hinges, the mirror off the wall, the over toilet like storage area off the wall. I also took all the outlet covers off, basically got ready for painting. But once I removed all this, I realized how gross the walls were. I don't know what they were doing in this bathroom before, but I have no idea why all of this stuff was on the wall. Before I started painting and covering all of this up though, I needed to do some prep work. So I started by covering the back of the toilet so that I could paint around it without getting the toilet painted. I will say originally for this project, I was just gonna do like paint the walls, change the shower curtain, and that was it. But once I got in there, I realized how much other things needed to be changed as well. So this video, like this project, I'd get to a point, I'd be like, okay, I am done. And then I'd be like, well, let's just do this one more thing. It'll look much better. So all the stuff that I did was not planned. If I would have known about all the stuff I was gonna do, I probably would have considered moving the toilet, like just taking it out completely, because I couldn't paint behind the wall. And then when I ended up painting the floor, like it was just a hassle to deal with. So if I would have known at the beginning, I probably would have actually gone through and like taken the toilet up and then replaced it later. Ideally, you're supposed to start renovation projects by working from the ceiling to the floor, so top to bottom. And so I knew I wanted to do the, my baby, come on, come on. My baby, hi baby, I missed you. You want to start and work from the top to the bottom. And so the first thing that I did was, well, I actually found it. I found a plastic drop cloth that the old homeowners left here, and so I thought I'll use this to cover the shower area. And so I ended up taping it up so that I would have something to catch all of the dust and stuff that fell off once I was sanding the ceiling line holder things that hold the drop ceiling in place. I really cannot remember what it's called, but I ended up sanding those down with 80 grit sandpaper just to get all of the rust and excess anything off of there, and it absolutely needed it. In reality, I probably didn't actually need this drop cloth, because I think I ended up making more of a mess taking it back out than I would have just cleaning up afterwards. So I don't know if I would recommend doing this in my setup, but that's okay. After I was done sanding this, I needed to paint it, and so I actually ended up using the same cream that's been painted all over our whole house. I was just gonna put this on the ceiling, but it was too dark of a cream to go with the light cream ceiling tiles, and so Instead of just doing that, I mix my ultra pure white, which I'm trying to paint like all the trim in my whole house this color, but I just mix those two colors together, and that's what I used to paint the entire support system for the ceiling. After the ceiling was painted, I don't know why I actually didn't get any clips of it being painted. I just feel like I was probably down there forever and I was tired of setting up the time lapses for all the same angle, but I didn't get any clips of me painting the ceiling. But then I jumped straight into taping off the rest of the bathroom so that I would be ready to paint all of the walls. Once everything was taped off, I could start painting. I actually ran a poll on my Instagram for this paint color. I gave you guys a couple different options and said please vote on which one your favorite, and David's favorite won over my favorite, so we ended up going with that. The color I used was Sparkling Emerald by Bear. I did use a semi-gloss finish just because this is a bathroom, and even though I won't shower down here, I'm sure my guests will. It looks very like turquoisey blue on camera, but it's more of like a green tone than a blue tone if I'm being honest, but it's very hard to see on camera. It really did not take long to paint this bathroom at all. I just started by doing all of the trim and edge work and then the difficult areas like behind the toilet, and then I just got out the roller and went through and gave a first coat to everything. The first coat was really not enough at all. It was actually very see-through, and I don't know if that's just because I was working with semi-gloss and I'm not used to that or what, but it was not great. This is like the worst coverage I've ever had in the first coat of a project, but the room was super small and it was super easy for me to go through and do a second coat later. After the second coat was done, I decided to start painting the trim. As I mentioned before, I use my Ultra Pure White by Bear for this. I just taped off the floor, gave the first coat, and then once the wall was dry, I also taped off the top part of the trim on the wall. Gave it all a nice fresh coat of white. After this, I went through with a tiny paintbrush and touched up areas on the ceiling where I had gotten the green paint onto the cream paint that I had already painted before. After this, like I said, the process of getting the plastic drop cloth out of the bathroom ended up causing way more of a mess than I anticipated. I thought it was gonna be easier for me to use that, so it was preventing cleanup in the long run, but it was not. And so I went through and wiped down my shower, and then it was time to put back on the accessories to the wall. So the first thing that I did was add the little medicine cabinet above the toilet, then add the mirror, and then I actually replaced the hinges for the door. I'm switching all of my hinges and door hardware in the entire house to black, so this bathroom was no exception. I got these black hinges from Amazon. Super affordable. I absolutely love them. If you are interested, they're linked down below in my Amazon shop. I also added back the towel bar and put the outlet covers back on. And then with my painting job and the fact that this bathroom was just so old and the fact that it just really needed a refresh, I went through and recalked everything. It was definitely in need, and I think it looks so much better with just the nice clean strip of white. I did this around the shower area and toilet and sink. And at this point, I honestly thought I was done with the bathroom. I started going through and adding the final touches. I added little travel-sized toiletries in the shower, and then I stocked the medicine cabinet full of stuff like toothbrushes, tissues, extra mouthwash, flossers, cotton balls, tampons, anything like that, just so it would be full if my guests needed anything. Then I went as far as putting the shower curtain up. I replaced the shower curtain rod and got new shower curtain like holder clip things and a new liner. And then my aunt and I actually made this shower curtain. I could not find a shower curtain that I liked anywhere. I thought it was just because, you know, it's the middle of winter in Kentucky and we just don't sell that kind of stuff here. But I flew down to Florida a couple weeks ago to visit my aunt, and I was like, well, can we go shopping for a shower curtain because I need something like tropical to match with this vibe? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. And so we went to all the stores and couldn't find anything, so we just ended up going to Joann Fabrics and making the shower curtain, and I love it. It was such a fun day. You know, working on sewing this and putting it together, and we had a great time. So I'm super happy with that, with how it turned out and everything like that. So where did we get it? We made it. I also ended up buying a couple different rugs for the floor, and I actually ended up returning them because I decided I did not like them, and I think I should have kept them because a few days later I decided that I didn't like the rugs because I didn't like the floor, and why not just paint the floor? So this floor, it was a peel and stick vinyl tile. It's been there forever. I hate it. I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, I hate this tile, what should I do? And he was like, honestly, just rip it up and replace it. Like, that would be cheap and easy. But me being me, I decided that why would I rip it up and replace it without at least trying to paint it? I wanted to try painting stuff, like stencils on the floor, just to see how it would go. I wanted to compare it to the Floor Pops peel and stick tile that I use in the other bathroom. And so I looked up a tutorial online, and I decided I was going to go for it. So the first thing that I did was use an orbital sander and just sand the entire floor down. I ended up using 120 grit sandpaper, and then I also wore a face mask just because that's a lot of dust and everything all up in a small area, so be sure to protect your lungs. Once everything was sanded, I wiped it all out, and then the tutorial that I found online said that I should use this liquid sandpaper, and so I bought some of that from Home Depot. It was only like $6 for it. I went through and taped off absolutely everything that I needed to, and then I just scrubbed the floor with this. Even though I painted the trim white, I knew that I still had the toilet and shower that were like a cream-based color, so instead of doing a white-based floor, I actually turned around and ended up using the exact cream color that I've been complaining about forever in my videos, that's been on the walls and doors and trim and the rest of the house. They had an extra half gallon of that down in the basement still, and I just decided, you know what, I need a cream base, why not use this? So that's what I used. I know you're supposed to use like special type of floor paint, but this, number one, it's not a high traffic area at all. Number two, that's what I have. Number three, if it doesn't work, I was told that it would be smarter to just rip it up anyway, so I can just go back and rip it up in the future if it doesn't work, and if we ever get around to actually fully renovating this basement bathroom, depending on like how long we stay in the house. But I gave my first coat of paint onto the floor. It dried pretty nicely, but I did not like how the paint seeped through the cracks on just some of the tiles. It wasn't like all of them, but I wanted to go through and fix it. So I ended up getting my caulk back out, and this is like super DIY. I'm not sure if this is the best idea at all, but it's the only thing that I could think of. And I went through and just caulked between the edges of the tiles that had gaps between them. I let this dry, and then I gave another coat of paint. While the floor was drying, I ended up sanding and painting the door to the bathroom. Again, it was a cream color. I went through and just did the ultra pure white. I've been doing this with all of my doors, and this one was no exception. I also took the old brass looking doorknob, sanded everything down with 80 grit sandpaper, and then went through and primed, painted, and sealed them with these Rust-Oleum spray paints. These are the same ones I've been using on every single doorknob of my whole entire house, and they've worked pretty well so far. After the door was painted, it was time for the floor. So to do this, I ended up sweeping out everything on the second layer of paint that I had already painted on the floor. I didn't want any little specks of dirt, dust, anything, dog hair, because you know that's a problem in my house, anything on the floor. So I wiped everything down. I just had a stencil that I bought on Amazon. I used some painter's tape. I put it down on the floor, and I said, let's try this out. I started by using like more of like a foam brush that you would use for arts and crafts. That did not work out at all, so I ended up just taking a paintbrush and painting every single square individually. Looking back, I probably should have used a roller. I just didn't have one that was available in my house, so like a mini roller, you know, not a big one. But I ended up liking this whole process a lot. I would much rather do this over doing something that was like the Floor Pops that I used in my bathroom upstairs. Hated those so much. Love the way they look, but I hated the process. I would say that I loved painting and using this stencil. It was fairly easy. I did end up messing some up. I am absolutely in love with how this turned out. I would recommend starting your stencil in a place that like you can mess up the first time, because the very first one I did was filled with paint, and so the borders of the design were not as clean and it was like a very thick design. I would also say that there's a learning curve to this because sometimes when picking the design up from one painted area and putting it on another, when you're trying to line it up and making sure all your lines are straight and your tape is good, it moves a little bit and the paint that was on the stencil from the previous spot gets on your floor and like messes up with your borders, and you know, there's just like a lot to think about, and I ended up wiping down the stencil in between tries just to avoid getting the double effect of the extra paint going places. But once I got the hang of everything, this process turned out beautiful. I love how it came together. It looks very tropical. I'm obsessed. Once I got all of the big areas done with the full square, I ended up cutting the square in half. I don't really know if this worked well or not because, you know, once all the pieces aren't connected, they move a little bit more. And I ended up actually hand painting a lot of the areas that were harder to get to. But I mean, I'm an artsy person, so that was not difficult. But for someone who is not very good with stuff like that, this would be probably a rather difficult project. Once everything was done and dried, I used this water-based polyacrylic. It's a protective finish. I got this because someone recommended it on their blog post that they did about painting their vinyl tile floors. But on the back of this, it says, do not use for floors for high traffic areas. So if you're trying to do something high traffic, look for something else. Again, this bathroom is absolutely not high traffic. But I ended up doing a couple coats of this. Between each coat, I would sand it with 150 grit sandpaper. I think I ended up doing 3 coats of polyacrylic. And last but not least, I picked up some towels from Big Lots. They're like a rust color. They go well in this bathroom. I also got these super cool drawer pulls from Hobby Lobby. They were on sale for like 50 or 60% off. So I got 3 of them. I absolutely love them. They add such a good vibe for the bathroom. I kept the little bathroom sign that I had before. I also got a toilet paper holder because there was not one in there before. I added a trash can, and I just think this bathroom came together really well. I think this is a huge transformation. I absolutely love it. I really wish my camera captured the colors more accurately, but that's okay. I'm absolutely obsessed with how this turned out. It's very tropical. It's such a vibe. It's so moody. A lot of people would say that it's like too dark, but I like it. You know, I'm a dark color person. So that is pretty much it for today's video. I'm so glad that you guys stuck around and watched today. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. I appreciate you all more than you know. I will see you guys next time. Bye!